Friday night. The topic tonight is going to be Dereck Chisora gets glassed by Dillian Whyte. Because footage has now emerged of the altercation that took place in the Sky Sports studio between Dereck Chisora and Dillian Whyte during the filming of The Gloves Are Off. And what actually happened is Dereck Chisora threw a glass of water over Dillian Whyte, and Dillian Whyte switched straight away, grabbed the glass off the table and threw it at Dereck Chisora's head. Now I can't really see from this grainy footage whether or not that glass actually hit him. Some people say it did, some people say it didn't, but it is what it is. That's the topic. He glassed me all over again. Did he physically glass him? Or he threw a glass at his head? If you ain't seen the footage, look it up on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It seems like somebody from within the Sky building has leaked that footage, because it was recorded, looked like it was recorded on a mobile phone, and it was somebody recording what was taking place on a studio monitor. Like one of the monitors that they have in TV studios. Somebody in the Sky building has recorded that on their phone and uploaded it to the internet. So yeah, crazy. He glassed me all over again. So it's pretty funny, man. Let me just sort out some settings for those people who are still just locking in. The topic is Dereck Chisora and Dillian Whyte, the beef that they're having. What do you guys think about it? Apparently, according to Eddie Hearn, Dillian Whyte had to be restrained by like 8 security. Right, somebody says my feed is not working. Not sure why you say my feed ain't working. What's wrong with the feed? What's up, Tom? What's up to everybody in the chat room? Let me sort out some settings and see if there's anything wrong with this feed. Let me know if you can hear me okay in the chat room. If the feed is fine, says Liam. All right, shout out to Liam. Okay, Joe also says the feed is fine. Shout out to everybody. Yep. Shout out to Christopher Rob. Zaid. Shout out. Amit Sharma says fake beef. Well, I've seen a lot of real beef in my life, and I'm telling you right now, it's not no fake beef. If you see the way that Dillian threw that glass at Dereck Chisora's head, there is no way that that's fake beef. So it is what it is. You know, somebody's there commenting about some YouTube nonsense. Let me tell you this. When I started this channel, not even this channel, when I started doing YouTube back in 2010, a lot of people were having back and forth beefs with other channels. And I never involved myself in back and forth beefs. I always made a policy for me on YouTube to never start beefing with other channels, because I think it's just silly. It's not real beef, it's some joke business. Yeah? So I don't involve myself in none of that nonsense. It's silly, it's petty, and one thing I noticed is all the channels who involve themselves in all that kind of stuff never go anywhere. That's the thing, they never go anywhere. So I don't involve myself in none of that nonsense. And one thing I can say is, not just in terms of if you're gonna have a YouTube channel, but just in life in general, the best way to defeat your haters, your naysayers, your enemies, whatever the case may be, is to be successful. Coming back at them with insults and all that kind of stuff, that's not really gonna get to them. You'll just be going back and forth forever with them people. The best way is to be successful. Nothing succeeds like success, and that's all there is to it. So that's all I'll say about that. You sound like I smoked 100 Marlboros since my last video. No, it's just my voice is a bit raspy sometimes, and yeah, it gets like that. Shout out to Boo Boo. Shout out. Shaky Jake, is Hatman black or white? Hatman is definitely black. Alright, let me just sort out these settings as usual, because YouTube is always hating on me. Is this a different clip to the video on the Sky Sports website? Yes, it is a different clip. This is not a clip that you'll see on the Sky Sports website. This is a clip that somebody, an insider within the Sky Sports studio, has recorded on their mobile phone and uploaded to Facebook and stuff like that. So it's not something you'll see on the Sky Sports website. Let me see this. 1 second, guys. Let me just sort out these settings here. Don't know why I don't get the correct settings on YouTube by default. It always gives me some weird settings. So just sort it out quickly, and I'll get to these comments. Okay, that's okay. That's all right. These tags in. Okay, we're good to go. All right, let me see some of these. Yeah, well, it's a different mic that I use. I'm just using the microphone on the PlayStation controller, so it's a very cheap mic. So my voice does sound different on this mic than on my other mic, which has a much greater dynamic range. So, yeah. Sean Leap says, hope Whyte doesn't get too emotionally involved. Well, I think that Dereck Chisora is doing the right thing at the moment. I think he needs to get Whyte to be as emotionally involved as possible. I think that increases Chisora's chances of winning the fight. He has to keep on getting under Dillian Whyte's skin, and maybe he can get himself to, you know, overexert himself in the fight, and maybe, you know, pull off the upset. I think he needs to keep on doing that. Dereck is playing the game well. Yeah, he is. He needs to keep on doing it. All right, let me have a look at these. Whyte versus Price. That's what Eddie Hearn is talking about. If Dillian Whyte manages to get past Dereck Chisora, he's talking about matching Dillian Whyte with David Price next. What do you guys think about Dillian Whyte versus David Price if he gets past Chisora? Hatman, how much can you bench? I've got no idea. I've never really been into weights, so I don't know. I think I went to the gym once when I was a bouncer, because obviously when you're a bouncer, everybody's doing weights. So they always wanted to take me to the gym to see how much I could bench. So I went to the gym with one guy who was always in there, used to take steroids and all type of stuff, and I went there and did a few weights once. But other than that, I do not do weights. Never have. So how much I could bench, I don't know. No idea. Price got no chin but can bang, says Hashim Hassan. Headley says, hang on, let me find these comments on, because I'm reading these comments off the PlayStation chat, and as you can see yourselves on screen, they don't stay on the screen for very long, so I need to go into the actual YouTube watch page and read the comments there. 1 second, let me see. Yep, there we go. I'll be able to get to your comments a lot easier here. You'd rather see Dave Allen versus Price. I'm not sure Dave Allen is in a particularly good place at the moment, to be fair. Because I was told that he was supposed to be fighting Con Sheenan. He was offered a fight against Con Sheenan. I was told that before Con Sheenan said it in an IFL interview. Somebody who is subscribed to my channel and comments on a lot of my videos, sent me a private message, and he told me, he's an Irish guy, and he told me that Alan was offered the Conchinian fight and he turned it down because he's not in great shape or whatever. So Mr. Fade said, where does the name Hatman come from and how old am I? Well, I'm too old. I'll tell you that. And where does the name Hatman come from? It comes from the fact that I wear a lot of hats and I own a lot of hats, and I always have from when I was a teenager. I always be somebody that's got a lot of hats and wear hats all the time. So that's where the name came from. Shah Islam says, Ian Lewison versus Price. Like Lewison needs more exposure. Yeah, well, they fought in the amateurs and they had a very close fight, Lewison and Price. So I wouldn't mind seeing it again. Lewison needs to get in a hell of a lot better shape though. Much better shape. All right, Ahmed Ali is clearly trolling here. One thing I have to say as well is I have to talk about Orville McKenzie because he was forced to retire. And that was announced today due to a heart condition. So it's a shame that he was forced to retire like that. He was obviously looking at certain big fights. He was going to fight Marco Huck. But yeah, because of his heart condition, he's been forced to retire. So my best wishes go out to the upsetter. Sad news. Yeah, Orville, Shaky Jake. Right, somebody there said it looks like AJ is overlooking Molina. He may be. You know, he may be overlooking Molina. We'll find out. If he gets chinned in a couple of rounds like Lennox Lewis did when he fought Oliver McCall, then maybe we can say he overlooked him. The Motto Channel UK says, I hazard a guess and I've come to the conclusion that you're around 37 years young. Well, you're in the right ballpark, I'll tell you that. I wish I was as young as some of you guys out there, you know. But time is undefeated. Father time is undefeated, as Dwight likes to say. Liam Reynolds, I'm so excited for Ortiz versus Scott. Am I excited for Ortiz versus Scott? I'm just excited to see Ortiz fight regardless. Suru says Dillian is a madman. Well, Dillian is a very volatile character. That's what I can say. Anybody that thinks Dillian is acting, believe you me, is not acting. Dillian's just a very volatile guy. He's like that. He's like Tony Bellew. He's just volatile. What else is here? What else was I going to talk about? There was something else I was going to mention in the world of boxing. Was it to do with Dillian Whyte and Chisora? I can't remember now. It will come back to me. Whatever man says, Hatman, would you rather see Joshua Klitschko or Joshua Wilder? Maybe even, I don't know actually. Maybe Joshua Wilder, I don't know. Joshua Wilder might be a more explosive fight, I'm not sure. All right, a lot of comments coming in here, trying to keep up with them. White didn't go David Hay on Don Charles too, did he? No, he didn't. He didn't. Hatman, who do you reckon would win, Dillian Whyte or Shannon Briggs? I think Dillian Whyte would win. I think Shannon Briggs' stamina is beyond terrible. All right, Ahmed Ali is saying all types of stuff here. He's some joker. Block party, I think. A second ago, I saw somebody, it looked like he blocked them for no reason. Automatically, without me doing it. So somebody is blocked and I didn't mean to block you. I apologize. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. Other channels. I do have a couple of channels to big up actually. Let me see here. Yeah, a couple channels to big up. Big up Minimax Boxing. He's a young kid and he's really enthusiastic about boxing. And if he keeps the enthusiasm that he has now and keeps doing what he's doing, he might get somewhere in the world of boxing journalism in the future. So big up Minimax Boxing. Big up Mr. Boxing Today. Definitely a big shout out to that channel. Definitely big up Boxing Gossip. Doing great things. Love his content. So big him up every time. Box Pred as well. My old school YTBC brother from back in the days. Big up Box Pred. Big up Boxing Beats and Rhymes. And all the big channels that I watch, I don't really need to big them up anyway because you know them. You know I'm a big fan of IFL, Seconds Out, Fight Hub and all them kind of channels there. But in terms of the YTBC vlogging channels, if you want to call them that, / news channels, yeah, those are the guys I'm bigging up at the moment. There will be others, but for now, that's what I'll say because they're on my recommended channels list on my YouTube channel page, so big them up. Hatman, do you sponsor White? I definitely don't sponsor. Some people are saying that I'm a Dillian Whyte fanboy, or Hatman, do you know Dillian Whyte personally? This, that, and the other. I think people are getting it twisted because I'm not going to be picking Dillian Whyte to win every fight he's in. When people started talking about the possibility of Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz, I'm not telling you Dillian Whyte's going to beat Luis Ortiz. I might not even tell you Dillian Whyte's going to beat David Price. Yeah, but when it comes to Chisora, I just don't think Chisora is that good, and I think he's seen better days. So that's all it is. And as far as Dillian Whyte's antics, he's a volatile character, and you either like that type of character or you don't. And if you don't, that's cool. Some people don't like the way Tyson Fury carries on. Me personally, I find it entertaining. I was a big fan of WWE when I was a kid, or WWF as it was then. So I like all that over-the-top theatrical nonsense in when it comes to combat sports. I like it. So it is what it is. But if other people don't like it, that's cool. Indeed, Shane Egan says, the hammer of justice. He was killing me with all that he was saying. Amit Sharma says, wishful thinking, but could Ortiz versus Price end up on the AJ card? Boy, if it did, poor David Price. I don't like his chances against Ortiz at all. Joe Reese says, do you follow Box Talk? Yeah, I do follow Box Talk actually, yeah. Big up Box Talk as well. Box Talk is Addy and Ryan. Yeah, big up Addy and Ryan, Box Talk. How long ago did I start this? This stream has been going for about, how long now? Nearly 20 minutes. So let me know what you guys think about this Chisora Whyte situation. Moji Rashid says, Hatman, what are your thoughts on Wilder versus Whyte? I think Wilder would win. That's my thoughts on that. IFL, yeah, big up IFL. I'm a huge fan of IFL. I love their work. I think Coogan and James they've been trailblazers in the world of boxing journalism. I love their informal style because before then, nobody was interviewing boxers in such an informal way. And because they do it in an informal way, it really breaks down boundaries and gets the fighters to open up in ways that we never saw before in boxing interviews. So I'm a big fan of IFL, man. From day one, I've been subscribed to that channel and locked in. So yeah, big up IFL, always. Crumb snatcher, glass me. Yeah, the hour-long Eddie Hearn talks, that's what I live for. Charlie Walker, I live for that hour-long Coogan and Eddie talks. The banter is crazy. 791 Mike says, IFL equals citizen journalism, more power to it. Indeed, more power to it. You know, I don't want to disrespect anybody, but there's a certain, I guess you could say, group or class of journalists within the print media and even within broadcast media, boxing journalists I'm talking about here, who just see it as a job. They're getting paid to cover boxing, to write their columns and all that kind of stuff. They're not really doing it from the passion of their, out of their own heart. But with IFL and a lot of these guys, especially your Radio Rahims and all these kind of people, even Ellie Sekbak, people diss Ellie Sekbak. You might not like his style, but at the end of the day, that man went out there and made it happen. Interview fighters running around here, there, and everywhere. And it takes passion for the sport to actually go out there and do that, because for a long time, people like Coogan and Ellie, they weren't making no money doing what they were doing, making no money at all, putting themselves out to go to these press conferences and these fights and all these different places. So you have to respect their passion. They've really worked hard to get to where they are. So I respect all those guys, even if I don't necessarily watch every single channel of that type, because the presentation style or the interview style of certain people may not be to my personal taste. I still respect them because they're putting in work and they have a real passion for boxing. So shout out to everybody who's doing that. Asim Hassan says Ortiz will remove Price's chin. Dan the man says Ellie gets ripped. Yeah. Well, we all have our critics, and when you're on a public platform, the bigger you get, the more criticism you're gonna get. It just comes with the territory. And you can either allow that to bring you down and get caught up in it, or you can just remain effervescent and keep on moving forward. People say what they're gonna say, but nothing succeeds like success. So just continue to try and be successful whatever you're doing in life. Never mind about boxing or boxing journalism or YouTubing or whatever. Nothing succeeds like success. Ellie's a hater. Well, Rashid. Yo, big up Rashid. Derek's glass dodge was impressive. Dillian threw that glass quicker than any punch. Yes, Rashid. He did. Dillian switched quick, boy. He didn't wait around. Like, that was like lightning reflexes. As soon as Chisora threw the water, Dillian instantly had the glass aimed at Chisora's head. Crazy. What's my take on Ben Doughty and his boxing page? Open to Hatman and everybody else. Well, Ben Doughty's doing his thing, I know he has a big following on Facebook, and I've had a couple of brief chats with him a few times, and he seemed cool. I know he was embroiled recently in some scandal with money and tickets and all that kind of stuff, but that seems to have been resolved, thankfully. So yeah. You won't really hear me talk bad about other channels and journalists and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that. If I've got something bad to say, if I don't have anything positive to say about certain channels, I won't say anything about them at all. Because I'm concentrating on my journey. I'm not trying to start no feud with another channel. It's petty anyway. You guys want, and most boxing fans want, to see fights between professional fighters, not middle-aged people that run YouTube channels. You understand? So that's why I stick to. I mean, there might be a small demographic who do want to see some middle-aged guys going back and forth making videos and doing all this kind of stuff. But the majority of people, the majority of real boxing fans, they don't want to see that. They're not interested in petty nonsense like that. They want to see the real professional fighters beefing. Guys who are young in their prime of life, who actually are doing something in the sport of boxing, not just a couple of random individuals. Glass and water, a lethal combination. Shout out to Carlton Palmer. Hatman had a dream. Okay. Feed Habib says, I'd rather have, what was it? A colostomy than watch women box. Well, I'm also not really a fan of female boxing. And some people find that controversial. I don't know why. Frank Warren, and you know, I'm definitely not a fan of Frank Warren, but one thing he said that I agree with, he said that he is not a fan of women's boxing, but there are many people who are not a fan of men's boxing. There are plenty of women who don't like seeing men fight. They'll cover their eyes and say it's terrible. And that's cool. Nobody complains about that. But if a man says, oh, I don't like seeing two women fight, then all of a sudden that's controversial and sexist and all this kind of stuff. That's how I feel. I don't really like watching women fight. You know, that's my take on it. Valkyrie, EU, yes. Basically, we're talking about the Dereck Chisora, Dillian Whyte situation. They were filming a Sky Sports Gloves Are Off episode, and it kicked off. Dereck Chisora threw some water over Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte threw a glass at him, and then it all kicked off. Dillian Whyte had to be restrained by like 8 security and taken to a different room to calm down because he'd lost it basically. And Chisora didn't need to be restrained at all, hardly, apparently, according to Eddie Hearn. He was left in the studio and he was cool. So maybe it was a calculated and planned move by Dereck Chisora to try and get under Dillian Whyte's skin. And if it was, it's a good move. He needs to keep on doing that. All right, somebody here says, I love female boxing. If anybody has a link to the video I'm talking about, in fact, let me try and find the link for you guys and post it in the chat room. That's what I'll try and do. I'll try and find the link to the video in question and post it in the chat room. But you'll have to be quick because these comments are coming so thick and fast that you'll be scrolling up endlessly to find it. So let me try and find the video and post it in the chat room for you guys who haven't seen it. All right, I'll tell you when I'm about to post it, and you better click on it quickly. All right, somebody here has uploaded it to YouTube. Yeah. All right, let me give you the link here, guys. All right, I'm gonna post the link in literally 5 seconds. So get ready to click it. There it is. There's the link. Shaky Jake says Radio Raheem's voice is cheesy as fuck. Shout out to Radio Raheem, man. Shout out. All B says, Hatman, that will clear the chat. Maybe, but you know, the comments are coming so quickly that not hyperlinked. Let me know if you guys can actually click the link that I just posted. I'm able to click it, but Hatman, did Dereck Chisora get glassed by Dillian Whyte? It's unclear at the moment. I guess we'll find out when they get interviewed, but he certainly had a glass thrown at him. I'm not sure if it hit him. Some people are saying he ducked it. It's hard to tell from the footage. I've only seen it once though. Link clicked but no sound. All right, let me try a different link, because a few people have posted this now. All right, this is one from, yeah, this is a Facebook link. So let me try this Facebook link, see if this works. There's a Facebook link. Hatman, who will Ortiz fight in December? Can't be tough opponent, right? Does he need that fight after Scott Jennings Thompson? I'm not sure who he will fight, but who would I like to see him fight? I mean, I wouldn't mind a prize fight, as brutal as that sounds. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I haven't thought about it too deeply who I would like to see Ortiz fight next. Dave Allen, that's a possibility. Apparently, according to Eddie Hearn. Yeah, according to Eddie Hearn, Dave Allen has been calling for the Ortiz fight. Yeah. Dave Allen. Boo Boo says, Hatman, hey, your gaming channel, where does the link come from? Where does the name come from? The name comes from a cartoon, an adult cartoon, not adult as in like porno, but a mature cartoon called The Boondocks. Yeah, if you ain't seen The Boondocks, look it up. Or it comes from that. And there was a character in The Boondocks called Stink Meaner. And that's where I got the name from. Master IP says Dave Allen is ruining his career. Why would you say that? Hatman, do you watch Power? I don't watch TV at all. So no, I don't watch Power. And I know a lot of these things are online, but I don't watch them online either. The only thing I really watch from television is boxing. And I watch that online. Other than that, I don't really watch anything from television anymore. Very, very few things. Obviously, if I go to somebody's house and the television happens to be on, just by default, I might end up watching a few minutes of whatever's on. But personally, I don't really watch TV like that. Moji Rashid says, Hatman, do you like MMA? I respect MMA fighters. I respect the craft, but I don't find MMA particularly entertaining. But again, I totally respect the fighters. They're warriors and they do their thing and they're very skillful. And, you know, I wouldn't want to get my arm snapped. Yeah, you understand? So, yeah. Predictions, Vargas versus Pacquiao. Yeah, let's have some predictions for that. What are you guys' predictions for Vargas versus Pacquiao? Marcus Gar says TV is for sleeping people. All right, Wail Shah, I can't even pronounce your name, bro. Joe Reese, Hatman, what are your thoughts on Cruiser? I didn't even get to read his name there, but it wasn't a name that appeared familiar. So you'll have to tell me about him. Maybe I have to research him. There are so many cruiserweights at the moment popping up out of nowhere, very good cruiserweights. I obviously need to get up to speed on that guy as well. Vargas by split decision, says Kenneth Brown Jr. Money by TKO. You know, one thing that I found interesting is that Vargas weighed in like 2 pounds below the welterweight limit. Any predictions for Ward versus Kovalev? That's going to be... Is that next weekend, Ward Kovalev, or the weekend after? I think it's the weekend after, isn't it? The bad guy says Dave Allen versus Ortiz is like a nosedive in a plane. Somebody said, do I think that Dereck Chisora should retire? I mean, that's up to him. He's not yet punch drunk. You know? So I guess he's still got some life left. It's all down to him and how much money he has. If he's financially secure for life and set, then he might want to consider retiring if he loses to Dillian Whyte, particularly if he loses badly. But, you know, it's up to him. He's not at the Roy Jones stage yet, where he's just so washed up beyond belief that you worry about him when he steps in the ring. Chisora's not quite there yet, so, you know. Tom Buddy, yeah. Chisora banging on about carrots and donkeys. Chisora is a bizarre individual. He talks about weird stuff. He's a weird man. What can I say? Am I watching Showbox tonight? Who's on Showbox tonight? Give me the heads up, because I wasn't actually going to watch it. Wilder versus Parker 2017, who would your money be on? Man, I'm not even sure. I need to see more of both fighters in competitive fights to really know where they're both at. Feed Habib says Ortiz would turn Allen's brains into mush. Somebody here says, Chisora is nothing, I will spark him out. Okay. All B says, what do I think about Tommy Fury? I think he's very big for his age. Yeah. He looks very strong and muscular for his age, and he's been like that for a couple of years. So will that translate into actually being a good boxer? We will see. They're kind of creating a heavyweight conveyor belt over there in the Fury team, in the Fury camp. So we'll see. I do rate Peter Fury as a trainer. I think he really knows what he's doing. So we'll see. Delboy94 says Tommy Fury is juiced out of his mind. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I have no knowledge about that. Some people are naturally very muscular at a young age. So it's not necessarily an indication that somebody is juicing because they're young and they got muscles. I mean, I was big when I was in high school. I can tell you that. I was very big for my age. Had muscles and all that kind of stuff. I stopped growing at 14 years old. Yeah, and I'm not short. You understand? So I'm the same height now as I was when I was 14. And when I was 14, I was like probably 15 stone or so. Solid. And I wasn't taking any type of steroids, anything like that. Can Mikey Garcia beat Crawford after a couple of fights? I'm not sure. Is Conchiden any good? I have to admit, I've not yet seen Conchiden fight. I think he's only had like 3 professional fights now. But to my knowledge, he had a hell of a lot of amateur fights, so he should have a good foundation there. And I've heard people speak highly of him. So I'll have a look at Conchiden next time he's on. Also, I heard that, I was told behind the scenes that Dave Allen was looking to fight Conchiden for the Irish title. I never knew Dave Allen was Irish. Hatman, what's your pound for pound list, says Dan the Man. I don't really have a pound for pound list, to be fair. I'm not really into the whole pound for pound thing. Yeah. Hatman's brother Shane is 30 stone. Rashid, I've just noticed pre-fight altercations of recent fights like McGregor versus Diaz. They've been exasperated by water. He watered me. I saw somebody say that today when they saw the Chisora Dillian Whyte altercation. He watered me. Like he's some plant. He watered me. Joe Reese says, would you do a top 10 heavyweights video? Maybe. I mean, there are so many videos that I have to do. I'll bear that one in mind. Top 10 heavyweights. Do you mean top 10 heavyweights of now or top 10 heavyweights of all time? Top 3 trainers. You know, the trainers thing is very difficult because there's a saying, right, that you can't polish a turd. So a trainer is only going to be as successful as the fighters he's working with are good or are naturally talented, for the most part. So some trainers don't get the opportunity to work with very good talent. So they're not going to get up there and have 10 world champions and all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to say. You know, I guess when you have a trainer who starts making champions out of nothing, then you have to give him more credit than a trainer who's taken champions like Freddie Roach. You know, he's taking established fighters a lot of the time and helping them rather than actually building people from scratch. You could say he kind of built Pacquiao from scratch. Excuse me, but other than that, not really. Tom CFC says, do you think AJ versus Klitschko will definitely happen next? I really don't know. This heavyweight division is not really going smoothly at the moment, so I really don't want to say if it's going to happen next or not. Liam Reynolds says Roach takes made fighters. Yeah, I mean many do. Dan the Man says, Hatman, you from London, whereabouts? From SW9 originally. If you're from London, then you'll know SW9. Who's actually fighting this weekend? Pacquiao, Vargas, who else? What are the fights this weekend? Shaky Jake says, shit year for heavyweight boxing, Roland 2017. Amen to that. Oh, Donaire's fighting this weekend. Okay. Good thing you told me. Valkyrie says, you're not from London and you're from London, but you don't know what SW9 is. Well, SW9 is the South London postcode. Definitely not Chelsea. The bad guy says, I just watched Dillian Whyte, Dereck Chisora. Yeah, it's crazy. What is going on here with these live streams? Why is there always some individuals coming up with homosexual comments, man? like, come on, man. Sort that out. Hatman, do you know who Alexander Teslenko is? No, I don't. Please inform me. Who is he? Valkyrie says, I'm Southwest London and Richmond postcode is TW. Definitely not from Richmond. Feed Khabib says, are there any world champions who are not gifted, physically gifted? Or not genetically gifted? Loads of them. Loads of them. I mean, you wouldn't say that Hopkins is really genetically gifted unless, I mean, obviously the fact that he's competing at such an old age, you could say that he's genetically gifted. But in terms of speed, power, athleticism, Hopkins has never been particularly physically gifted. He's just somebody that understands tactics and what have you. And I know he's not a champion now, but, you know, in years gone by he was. And he's never been the most physically gifted fighter out there. Yeah, shout out to Zod. Michael Kelly, big up. He was quite upset. I know Michael Zod, my boy Zod, he is not a fan of Dillian Whyte. He really don't like Dillian Whyte. He thinks he's obnoxious, and he's a big fan of Dereck Chisora, and he's hoping that Chisora smashes Dillian Whyte in. And he was saying that Dillian Whyte mentioning Dereck Chisora's dead dog was a step too far. Oh gosh. Dereck Chisora should have been looking after that dog properly. If he'd been watching over the dog properly, it wouldn't have got savaged by the Alsatian. Dogs are like that, man. They will fight each other. I used to have a dog growing up, a female dog, and it was like a cross between God knows what. It was a docile dog, you know, with humans, but with other dogs, oh my gosh, that bitch went crazy. Like, she would try and attack any other dog. If you're out walking or anywhere, she would literally try and rip the throat out of any other dog. Just crazy violent for no reason. She was like the Dillian Whyte of dogs. Joe Reese says, I only found out after the dog story that Chisora lives a few minutes from me. Chisora lives in Finchley, I believe. The bad guy says, did you hear about the Brixton rapper DVS? Yep, I heard all about that situation. Very sad. Very, very sad. That's all I can say about that. Very sad. And I don't think DVS, is he going to get out? I doubt it. In fact, one funny thing, just to skip totally some random topic here. One funny thing that Eddie Hearn said today in an IFL TV interview, he said that imagine if he fought Joshua on pay-per-view, Hearn versus Joshua. He said that would probably do 1 million buys. Because that many people want to see Eddie Hearn get bashed up, that it'll probably do 1 million buys. Hearn versus Joshua, who would buy that? Who would I rather escort out of a drunk club, Dillian Whyte or Dereck Chisora? Probably Chisora. What's this here? Flat Earth Forex. Have you discovered, or have I researched the Flat Earth? I mean, I've seen a few Flat Earth videos and stuff like that, but you know, I'm definitely not convinced by that theory. Big up Furious Boxing in the house. Don't know. Frank versus Eddie would be better. Hearn versus Coogan. The two Essex boys. Somebody here says, was doing hard jail time in Brixton when Dillian was a snot-nosed kid. Used to see him get bullied by the elders. Well, you know, everybody gets bullied by the elders. It is what it is. Unless you got some bodyguard, you get bullied by the elders in certain areas anyway. That's just what happens. In fact, I was telling somebody today about something that happened to me when I was a kid. And this was when I was maybe like 5 years old. Not in the UK, in the country I'm originally from. And basically, in the country I'm from, there's a lot of stray dogs. And so I was a little kid, and I took in a little pup, a stray pup. And I raised this dog for what felt like, you know, it felt like years, but it was probably only a few months. You know how things are when you're a kid. So I raised this pup now, and I bonded with this pup. I was feeding it and, you know, made a little box for him to sleep in and all them kind of things. And one day I was out on the street in a local area, and some older boys caught me with this dog. And kids can be cruel, you know. So they took my dog and they tied rope around its neck and they hung it up from a lamppost and killed my dog. Yeah. Sad story. I was devastated at the time, but obviously looking back now, I can laugh at it, because that's where this conversation is going. I was having a debate with somebody about animals, because the guy was saying, it was actually the guy I mentioned earlier, Zod. He was saying that Dillian Whyte went too far when he talked about Chisora's dead dog. And I said, it's only a dog. It's not a human being, you know. If it was a human being, yeah, it's too far. But when it's a dog, I know people love dogs and all them kind of things there, but surely you have to have more empathy with your own species than with a dog. And with Chisora's dog, it wasn't killed by a human being. It was killed by another dog. And animals are violent with each other. Cute little bunny rabbits get snatched up and ripped to pieces by foxes all the time. You know, shit happens. Yeah, they hung my dog. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, man, for no reason. They just did it just to do it. And obviously I tried to fight the boys, but I was on my own and they were bigger than me, and there was nothing I could do. I got slapped around. I just had to take that L, man. Take that loss. I was also saying that, like, in most of the Western world, we view certain animals as friendly to us, and we view other animals as pests. For example, in the West we say dogs are a man's best friend, but in other cultures dogs are seen as vermin. And certain animals that are seen as vermin in our culture, like rats, they're seen as sacred in some other cultures. So the way that we poison rats and hit them with brooms and all that type of stuff and kill them and whatnot, trap them and all kind of things, in other cultures, in certain other cultures, they will look at that and say that's disgusting, the way we treat rats. The same with cows. You look at India, the cow is sacred in most of India, yet we string them up by the back legs and slit their throats to make beef burgers. They think that's just horrifying, but the way that other cultures treat dogs or whatever, some people might find that horrifying. It just depends on what animal it is and where you are. Anyway, yeah, what am I talking about? Dogs' lives matters, yeah. Hatman, tell us a fucked up thing that you've seen. Well, I've seen a lot of fucked up things. Some things I wouldn't really want to talk about on here because they're a little bit deep. Things I've seen, but yeah, I've seen fucked up things. If you're talking about just random stuff in the street, I've seen people get shot. I've seen people get stabbed. Yeah, that's nothing, particularly if you're from back in the days. Anybody that's lived in London through the 90s and whatnot, particularly if you're from certain areas, you see these things. It's not really a big deal. The last time I didn't actually see, on this occasion, I didn't actually see somebody get shot. I don't think anybody was shot during this incident anyway, but I saw a shooting, somebody shooting at somebody, and that was, I think, 2010. Yeah, around 2000. It was actually around the time I started YouTube. Yeah, it was around 2010, and I was at a friend's place on some estate in London, in East London, and there was kids hanging around outside. There was like a basketball court in the middle of this estate, and there was kids hanging around, and I think it was on a weekend. Somebody had thrown some type of barbecue, and there was loads of kids, like 15-year-old kids around that type of age, high school age. And you could just tell from the atmosphere that something was going to happen. Yeah, you could just tell. Especially when it started getting dark and you started hearing arguments and whatnot, and then all of a sudden guns come out and somebody's firing off the revolver. So that was the last time I saw a shooting. It was like, yeah, 2010. I don't live in them places anymore. Let me see some of these comments here. Do I listen to rapper Lewis Parker? No, not these days, but I did listen to a little bit of Lewis Parker back in the days when he first came out. I remember him on the UK hip hop scene, Lewis Parker, when he first came out. But I can't say that I listen to him now, no. Liam Reynolds says, Hatman, I love your stories, bro. Big up. Hatman, you know Woolwich and Thamesmead, yep. I mean, I don't know them that well, but I have been to Woolwich and Thamesmead. A lot of Somalians there. And a lot of Nigerians and Ghanaians in Thamesmead. Harley Marshall says, Hatman, what football team do you support? I don't really follow football, to be fair. So, yeah, I'm not really, I don't really support any team. I do watch the odd football match here and there. And I do enjoy the drama, actually, within football. Especially between the managers. It's funny sometimes, but I'm not really a big follower of football like that. Rashid says, what do you do for a living? If I told you, Rashid, I'd have to kill you. And I like you, so I don't want to, I don't want to go there. Super Jackson, South is rough. I've always lived easy in North. Well, I don't think South is that rough anymore. I mean, it's nothing like it was back in the days in the 90s anyway. I'll say. James Evans says, be jokes if Wenger went for Mourinho like Chisora went for White. It would indeed. Shaky Jake says, Hatman worked at an airport, I think, once. I've actually never worked at an airport. Liverpool 2709 says, other than boxing, are there any other sports that you watch? No, not really, no. I just watch boxing. Sorry to be boring, but that's all I watch. Adam Kiff says GGG is unbeatable at middleweight, probably super middleweight as well. Well, we'll see when he moves up if he's unbeatable or not. We'll find out in due course. I do rate Triple G though. Rashid says arms dealing and pimping like Adonis Stevenson. You've got an overactive imagination. A lot of people guessing that I'm into criminal activity. I don't promote and I don't encourage criminal activity, man. You know, you don't want to go jail, man. Nothing good in jail. Wesley says the girl will beat Triple G. Well, he'll need to step up his game if he's going to beat Triple G, because I wasn't impressed with how he looked against Porky Medina at all. And I wasn't really impressed with how he looked against Lucian Buta either. I wasn't impressed. Super Jack says, Hatman, do you think Okoli dropped AJ? Well, somebody messaged me privately who knows somebody that knows Okoli. And, you know, somehow the question allegedly was asked of Okoli, did you knock out AJ? And through a third-hand source, the answer has come back, no, Okoli says he didn't knock out AJ. But that's more like Chinese whispers, so I don't know whether he dropped him or not. I really don't know. What I do know is that he did get dropped by David Price, and that there are a lot of rumors about AJ getting dropped numerous times in sparring by different people. How many of those rumors are true, I really couldn't tell you, but I guess we'll find out in due course if any of them are true. Particularly in this day and age, with social media and all this type of stuff, these sparring stories very rarely stay under wraps for too long. Somebody normally leaks the truth sooner or later. Oh, wow, somebody wants to join the block party. Yep. Rory Anderson says AJ has a glass jaw. Okay. Wesley says, Hatman, love your videos and channel. Big up, Wesley. Thank you, sir. Valkyrie EU, do you know Dillian Whyte personally? What I'll say is this. If I told you that I know Dillian Whyte personally, I think it would influence the way that people view my Dillian Whyte videos and stuff like that. So, and I like to stay objective. If Dillian Whyte does something where I need to criticize him, best believe I'm going to criticize him. No problem. Yeah, that's what I can tell you. Adam Kiff says, Hatman, you are second to IFL. I like your views. Thank you very much. I rate IFL extremely highly, so, you know, thank you for that. EJ Boxing Live, big up, big up. Del Boy bit White in the gloves are off. He bit him. Yo, who was it that said Del Boy looks like Blanca from Street Fighter. Because one of Blanca's moves was biting, innit? Blanca used to bite. So maybe. Oh gosh. Do I watch Bayloric? Yes, I do watch Bayloric. Big up Bayloric as well. Shout out to Ingram Jones. Blanca is a road man. Yeah, he is. He is. Blanca's raw. Hatman, do you think we'll see a white collar boxing fight between you and Wingy? I highly doubt it. Yes, EJ, big up. Yeah, I will try and look up that guy. Teslenko. Yeah, I'll look him up. Extremely talented. Thank you for the heads up. I'll look him up. Yeah, I heard about that situation with Ingram and that guy that claimed to be that journeyman who said that Eddie Hearn only paid him $1,000 or whatever it was. I mean, any person can get duped. That's all I'll say. Any person can get duped. The newspapers have been duped loads of times by fake individuals, so it does happen. But people who don't like Ingram, they don't like his style or whatever, that's cool. Some people don't like me. So you can't be liked by everybody. Some people, no matter how nice you are, there's gonna be some people that don't like you. And that's just the way the world is. I can't remember what I was watching now, but I watched some YouTube video recently where somebody said that you could probably put a video, or there probably is a video on YouTube of a baby, you know, like playing with a butterfly. And if you scroll down in the comments, there's probably some jackass in there saying, oh, fuck that baby. You know what I mean? There's probably somebody chatting shit about the baby playing with a butterfly. Like, no matter what you do, if you put yourself out there in the public, there's somebody that's not going to like you. That's just the way the world is, man. Mario G. Hatman, do you smoke bud? Legalize it. Nah, I don't smoke. I don't smoke. Liam Reynolds, how did you score Leonard Hagler? I thought that Leonard won the fight. Dan the Man, Hatman, if you've ever been knocked out in amateur boxing, or what's your best knockout? No, I never got knocked out in amateur boxing, never been knocked out in sparring, never even got dropped in sparring or in amateur boxing. I'm not trying to say I'm Ray Mercer here, but I'm just telling you. I didn't fight at a particularly high level, so, you know. Big up Wesley, keep the videos coming. I will. Well, you know, I think that everybody has to live and learn, you know. Some people do take themselves seriously, you know, to the point where when things happen, they don't see the funny side of it. And, you know, we've all got different weaknesses. That's what I'll say. So I got weaknesses, other people have got weaknesses. You just have to keep on improving yourself and learning. And, you know, it is what it is. Valkyrie EU says, Hatman, did you want to go pro? Yeah, I did want to go pro. But as I mentioned in the previous live stream, I am slightly short-sighted. And to be a professional in the UK, you have to have 20/20 vision. So it was a case of I would have had to go for laser eye surgery. And I didn't want to go for laser eye surgery. I just never liked the idea of it. I know the process. Because I know somebody recently that's had laser eye surgery. They cut your eye open after doing the laser. I think they do the thing with the laser first in your eye. Then they cut your eye open and they insert a lens into your eye, which stays there for like a week or whatever it is, or a few days. And then they take it out again. And I just never liked the idea of having my eyes cut open. And I thought it will be me that goes blind. Yeah. Asian guy says Anthony Yard has good defensive skills, but I want to see whether he can fight. on his back foot. Yeah, yeah. I'm very interested to see how good Anthony Yarde actually is, because he looks like he has a hell of a lot of potential. He looks like a precocious talent for somebody who hardly had any amateur fights. He had like 10 amateur fights, very few pro fights. To be as polished looking as he is pretty damn impressive. Yeah. He has picked up the sport of boxing extremely quickly, is very athletically gifted. He just looks like a natural. But there is no substitute for experience. So we need to see him step up. He's got plenty of time, but eventually we need to see him step up and see him tested, and then we'll see what he's really all about. But he's got a lot of potential, I can say that. Yarde versus Cleverly, yeah. I mean, in a year or so's time, maybe, yeah. We'll see. EJ says that Whyte don't remember the first time that they sparred. What, Chisora and Whyte. Whyte don't remember. Master IP says, sorry, man, laser eye surgery is so good now. You good. Master IP, have you had laser eye surgery? You know about North Wheezy? Yeah, I do know about North Wheezy. I used to know a couple girls up in Stonebridge and in Wembley Park. Wembley Park Estate and Stonebridge Estate. And back in the days, going to Stonebridge Estate, I went there a couple times and I didn't want to go there again. Let me tell you that. There was a certain time period where if you weren't from Stonebridge and you were trying to walk around in Stonebridge, you could have problems. All right. Hatman, is Lennox Lewis the best heavyweight ever? I would say no. Hatman, do you have to be fully grown to have laser eye surgery? Yes, I believe you do. Don't quote me on this, but I've been told that you shouldn't have laser eye surgery until you're at least in your late 20s or early 30s, because your eyes are still adjusting and your vision is still variable up until that type of age. But once you reach a certain age, your vision will not really get any better by itself. So that's why I believe they recommend you reach a certain age before you have laser eye surgery. I know people do have it at all types of ages, but from what I've been told, it's best, if you really don't need it urgently, it's best to have it a little bit later on. You're going to be waiting outside the oppositions when I stumble out of my eye surgery. All right. Hatman, was you an inside or outside fighter? Well, when I first started boxing, I was more of an inside fighter, just because of the fact that I was a big fan of Mike Tyson, and I just loved the way that he would just get stuck into people. But as I got older, towards the end of my amateur career, I was actually much more of an outside fighter, because I realized that I was more talented as an outside fighter, to tell the truth. So when I finally discovered what talent comes naturally to me, you know, it was quite well into my amateur career, and I realized, you know what, I'm a better outside fighter than I am an inside inside fighter. It's not like I was a bad inside fighter, but I was just more talented on the outside. I wasn't utilizing a lot of my athleticism by fighting the way that I was before. So I would say I'm more of an outside fighter. Hatman, your thoughts on Ustinov? He's a very big man, and I don't know. I mean, he's okay. Nothing special, but I guess he's a gatekeeper type heavyweight. Yeah, he's decent. Actually, one interesting thing I heard, Zaid member says Hatman is 16, too late to start boxing. No, not at all. AJ didn't start boxing until he was like 18, 19. So, not at all. What was I about to say? I forgot what I was going to say. Hatman, what was the upsetter's best win? Man, what were his best wins? Macronelli was a good win. He also knocked out... Who's the guy who knocked out at cruiserweight? He knocked out a couple people at cruiserweight. He knocked out... God, I forget the guy's name now. John Lewis... He knocked out John Lewis Dickinson, innit? Yeah, he knocked out John Lewis Dickinson. And he also knocked out the other guy. Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. His name escapes me. Another British cruiserweight he knocked out. He's had some good wins. Hashim Hassan says Macronelli is garbage. Well, garbage is a relative term, man. You know. Hatman, do I know or do you know Carla Howe? No, that's not a name that's familiar to me. What's the biggest upset of all time in your opinion? In my opinion, well, if it's just in terms of odds and public perception, then Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas has to be the biggest upset of all time. Because the public perception of Mike Tyson at the time was, this guy is literally a god in the ring. In fact, people thought that Tyson couldn't be beaten in any fight, inside or outside the ring. That he was literally invincible in hand-to-hand combat. A lot of people believed that at the time. A lot of people that didn't live through the Tyson era will never truly understand the aura of invincibility that Tyson had. This guy was not looked at as a normal human being. It was ridiculous when you think back to it, but that's how it was. So when he lost to Buster Douglas, that was like, it was just so shocking. I can't even put it into words. Everybody was shocked. Joe Reese says, do you like hip-hop? I don't really listen to modern hip-hop, but I was a big hip-hop head back in the days, yeah. Harley Marshall. Hatman, are you a roadman? I'm just a normal, everyday, approaching middle-aged citizen. That's all. Let me try to keep up with some of these. Donald Curry versus Ragamuffin Man was... Well, Donald Curry versus Ragamuffin Man was a massive upset, yes. Donald Curry was seen as pound for pound #1 by a lot of people. So it was a very, very big upset. But but Ragamuffin Man, Lloyd Hunnigan, was still regarded more highly than Buster Douglas. I can tell you that. Yeah, Buster Douglas was a straight up journeyman. That's the way he was referred to when he was fighting Tyson. Rory Anderson says, you still bouncing from time to time? No, I'm not bouncing no more. Haven't done that for years. Adam F. Patrick says, Hatman, do you believe if Tyson stayed with Rooney that he'd have remained unbeaten? Was self-destruction inevitable? No, I don't believe Tyson would have ever remained unbeaten, no matter if he was with Rooney or if Customado hadn't died. I just think that Mike Tyson's style has a shelf life. That's what I think. His style had a shelf life, and even his mentality. Tyson was going to go off the rails whether Rooney stayed around or whether Customado died or not. Tyson was always going to go off the rails. This is something that Larry Holmes predicted before he fought Tyson. He said down the line Tyson's going to destroy himself. How did he know that? Was he Nostradamus? No. He knew the man's character. Even when Tyson was with Rooney, Holmes was predicting that he's going to destroy himself. It was in him. It's part of his mental makeup. He was never going to stay on the straight and narrow regardless of who was training him. I mean, perhaps if he stayed with Rooney, he might have stayed on the straight and narrow a little bit longer, but for me, he was always going to go off the rails. Joel Slater says, why is Haydock in the Jurjai rematch? Your guess is as good as mine. Your guess is as good as mine. Hatman, before Chigayev fight, Brown looked super fit. Maybe he was on drugs. I don't think Brown was on drugs. I think Brown was spiked. That's just my personal view. And Brown has posted on social media his weight before some of his other fights. And he's actually weighed a similar amount before fighting Chigayev. So I don't think it was, drugs or anything like that. But, that's just my view. The bad guy says, Hatman, were you Orthodox or Southpaw? I'm Orthodox. Yeah, Orthodox. Pale Destroyer says, Hatman, do you regard Calzaghe? How do you regard Calzaghe in the great scheme of things? I think Calzaghe is an all-time great. I rate Calzaghe highly. I know he's not to everybody's liking. They call him Cal Slappy and all types of other stuff. But I just think he was a great fighter. And if you look at the fact that he was able to defeat Hopkins, look what Hopkins went on to do after the Calzaghe fight. That only makes Calzaghe's resume look better. So I rate Calzaghe. Super Jack says, what do you think of the Lamb Sexton thing Dylan said? All I can say is I hope it's not true. When Dylan was talking about catching Sam Sexton engaging in bestiality with a lamb wearing pink wellies. I hope to God it's not true. Surely it can't be. Calzaghe Lacey wasn't a fight. Yeah, it was a slaughter. It was a public execution. Dave Allen is on for fighting Luis Ortiz. Is he mad or what? Has that been confirmed? Has somebody confirmed that? I know Dave Allen is apparently keen for that fight. Master IP says, Hatman, have you seen Hands of Stone? I haven't. And I don't know if I will. I don't like the idea of Usher playing Sugar Ray Leonard. Can I really take Usher seriously on screen? It's hard. My thoughts on Keith Thurman. Good fighter. Good fighter. Seems a bit vulnerable though, especially to the body these days. But he's a good fighter and I think he will beat Danny Garcia. Shaky Jake says Lacey was supposed to win that. Yeah. Yeah, Calzaghe was backed into a corner. And he came out firing. He came out swinging. Liam Reynolds says, Hatman, the film is average. He can't do Leonard for shit. I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. When was the last time I actually saw a boxing biopic where the lead actor actually did the fight of justice? That's what I'm trying to think in my head right now. I never actually saw Hurricane about Reuben Carter. That was starring Denzel Washington, I believe. Never actually saw that. But other than that, I can only think of Raging Bull with De Niro, which is very good. Shaky Jake says, Eubank Saunders 2, same outcome as the first fight, question mark. Hatman, did you block me, says Saim Hussein. I don't think so. But as far as Eubank Saunders 2, I'd like to see it. And with Saunders, if the fight was to happen next, with Saunders' inactivity, I might even favor Eubank to win the fight on points. Because how long has Saunders been out the ring now? It's ridiculous. And there's been footage of him like looking way, way overweight, pictures and stuff like that. Activity is very important in boxing, particularly for somebody like Saunders who's blowing up in between fights to God knows what weight. Killzone is the worst game. Well, depends which Killzone. I've always been a big fan of the Killzone franchise. I love Killzone 2. Killzone 3 was my game. Oh my gosh, I love Killzone 3. Killzone Shadowfall, this game right now, which I haven't even started playing during this live stream. Killzone Shadowfall is cool. The multiplayer, the story mode is absolute garbage. But the multiplayer is alright. That's what I can say. It's alright. But Killzone 3, that was my game. I love that game to bits. Smithy all the way says Eubank would beat, Saunders would beat Eubank again as long as he gets active. Eubank is improving though. You know, I will say that. And I do think that Eubank froze in the first Saunders fight. I don't think he was ready for that fight psychologically. And I don't think it was a case of him misjudging the tactics and not starting fast enough and all this kind of stuff. I just think he froze. And he couldn't get any punches off. I've seen fighters freeze many times. And to me, that Eubank froze. And when he did end up throwing punches, they were sloppy shots. He wasn't throwing them fast, snappy shots that we're used to seeing him throw. He was throwing sloppy shots. He was like an amateur kid. You train them in the gym, and they're throwing the punches correctly. They're sparring well, and their form is good. But when they get in the ring for one of their early fights, and the bell goes, and their family and friends are there, and the pressure is on, all of a sudden their technique goes out the window, and they're swinging like it was their first day in the gym. And to me, that's what happened to Eubank in that Saunders fight. He froze. Next time around, he ain't going to freeze because he's got more experience. He's been there and he's seen it. He's done it. And I think you'll get a much better performance from Eubank Jr. regardless who wins the fight. I think Eubank Jr. will look a lot better in the Saunders rematch if it happens. Adam F. Patrick says Jamie Foxx playing Tyson, his accent is down to a T. Yeah, but Jamie Foxx is like, what, 40-something years old? So how are they going to do the scenes where it's a young Tyson? Super Jack says Eubank Sr. is a closet gay. Well, he does have a very effeminate demeanor, doesn't he? But I don't know. He's a weird guy. That's all I can tell you. Eubank Sr., very weird guy. James Toney played Frazier well. Let me tell you a true story. Joe Frazier, after watching Ali, that movie, he had a big problem with James Toney playing him in the movie when he saw it, Joe Frazier. And his exact words were something like, I don't like the portrayal of me in the movie. That guy who plays me look ugly. That's what he said. He said he looked ugly, man. I'm not ugly like that. Warriors Code. Yeah. All right, I hear you. Biba Lemo. Search Carla Howe. I will search, but right now I'm in the middle of a live stream, so I will try to search afterwards. How the fuck did James Toney go from middleweight to the size he is now? A lot of McDonald's, fried chicken, all types of pastries and stuff like that. James Toney apparently grew up next to a bakery. So from a young age, he was addicted to pastries. That's actually a true story. And he always had an addiction to pastries. Will Smith played Ali horribly. I agree. I definitely agree. Do the Eubanks have a public gym in Brighton or is it private? That's a good question. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. Oh, okay. James Toney's mother was a baker. Yeah. So he grew up in a bakery, not next to a bakery. There you go. I was going from memory, but yeah, I was there or thereabouts. Some people have crack addictions, some people have pastry addictions. Indeed. Yeah, Triple G versus Hagler would have been crazy. That's a crazy fight right there. Triple G versus Hagler. Two Iron Men. Hatman, you need to get Briggs for your intro. I actually do need to get Briggs for my intro. Yeah, let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. Hey, Hatman, where is that Ahmed Ali guy gone? He's joined the block party. If that's the guy that was posting all the gay comments, he's joined the block party. So he's, you know, having a ball over there, having a blast on the block party, drinking Kool-Aid and, you know, climbing on top of the speakers. Pill Destroyer 5 says, Hatman, do you think Triple G will have to step up to super middleweight? Have to for what reason? I mean, he don't have to. I've got no issue with him staying at middleweight, to be honest, his whole career. If he wants to do that, that's what Hagler did. So Master IP says AJ versus Wilder, the biggest fight in the world. Maybe, not yet, not yet. Wilder needs to be built up more for it to be the biggest fight in the world. AJ versus Klitschko probably bigger than AJ versus Wilder at this point. Klitschko still has a very big following. He's well known. Wilder don't really have that type of following yet. Even Fury's probably got a bigger following than Wilder. It really is disappointing the way boxing in America, from a popularity standpoint, has declined so much since the heyday in the 70s and the 80s and to a lesser degree the 90s. Yeah, that's right, EJ. The block party. With certain men, when I start talking madness and reckless, if I make them join the block party. Adam F. Patrick, Groves, Frotch won. Do you think Frotch was going to get him out there before the ref waved it off? It's impossible to say. You never know. What we do know is that Groves' chin is not the greatest. So, Frotch, Frotch did have him on the back foot and he was getting a lot of punches off. So who's to say that Frotch wouldn't have landed a big one that would have stretched him out the way that he stretched him out in the rematch? Who knows? But I do believe the stoppage was premature. Definitely. Hatman, what do you reckon? Ben or Frotch? Very good fight. Very, very good fight. Slightly lean towards Ben. If it was the Ben that fought McClellan, I slightly lean towards Ben. But it's a hell of a fight. Definitely a fight Frotch could win because Ben was vulnerable himself. You know, he didn't have the greatest chin himself, Ben. He got hurt in a lot of fights. But he fought a lot of big punches and he managed to survive somehow, some way. And come through. He had an incredible heart, fighting spirit, ridiculous toughness. So, yeah, I would slightly lean towards Ben, but not by much, man. And it certainly wouldn't be an easy fight. You think Brook has a good chance against Spence, show the level of toughness I never knew he had? Yeah, I mean, Brook is tough, but I just think styles make fights, and for me, Errol Spence is on the up. Hatman, who wins? Kovalev versus Stevenson, Ward versus Stevenson. I'd say right now, Kovalev beats Stevenson, and Ward, Stevenson, I'd favor Ward. Yeah. I think Stevenson is on his way out. You know, even though he had a nice win last time out against Thomas Williams Jr., it was a nice knockout. It was a nice little brawl for a couple of rounds. I think age is catching up to Stevenson. He's getting hit a lot more now than he used to. His reflexes don't seem to be the same. I mean, even in the Thomas Williams Jr. fight, you could see that he was frustrated within himself that he wasn't able to avoid Williams Jr.'s punches. That's why in the end, Stevenson abandoned what he normally does, which is box on the back foot at long range. He abandoned that against Thomas Williams Jr. and just decided to brawl with him. You know, because the outside boxing wasn't working. And some people could say, well, you know, that's a good tactical move by Stevenson. If one thing ain't working, switch tactics. So you can see it that way, but I personally see it as a sign that his reflexes are just not there anymore. He was getting caught with all kind of punches in that fight. And yeah, I just think Stevenson's on his way out. Intellect123 says, why do I hate AJ so much? I don't hate AJ, but I do get accused of hating just about every fighter out there. And that's what happens when you're objective. I always say on my channel that no fighter is below praise and no fighter is above criticism. So I might talk about rumors of AJ getting knocked out in sparring today. I might criticize him for one or two things today. And then tomorrow I'm praising him for something that I deem to be praiseworthy. That's called being objective. So it depends what day you catch me on. Some day you'll catch me on a certain day and I make a video about AJ where I'm praising him for this, that, and the other. And you'll say, oh, this is an AJ fanboy. And the next day, I'm criticizing him for something or other. Or I'm talking about sparring rumors or whatever. And you'll say, oh, you're an AJ hater. So when you're keeping it objective and you have a view where no fighter is below praise or above criticism, then everybody's going to accuse you of being something or other. A hater or a fanboy, you know. And usually people who are not objective can't stand objectivity. They can't stand it. They hate it. They want you to be as biased as they are. That's the only way you can please them people. But anybody that appreciates objectivity, I would hope that they can understand and appreciate what I try and do here on this channel. South Star, long time, big up South Star every time. There's a live Golden Boy Ring TV card on right now. Okay, thanks for the heads up. Yeah, some people talking about other channels and stuff like that who got things to say. As I said earlier on in the stream, nothing succeeds like success. Not just on YouTube, but just in life in general. If there are certain people who have got bad things to say about you, the best way to get back at those people, the best way to hurt those people is to be successful. It's not to go back and forth with them and make YouTube videos. It's not to insult them. No, you just get dragged down to their level. The best way is to be successful. The more successful you are, the more it burns them. And that's all I concentrate on doing. I don't let nobody drag me down to their level. Yeah? It's all petty. It's nonsense. I just do what I'm doing and let the cards fall where they may. I agree, but surely Stevenson, Smithy all the way says, I agree, but surely Stevenson will take a fight with Kovalev, Wood winner for the pay-per-view money before he retires. Well, there's a problem with Stevenson and Kovalev Ward because Stevenson's with Al Heyman and Kovalev and Ward are on HBO, and Al Heyman and HBO have got a very bad relationship. That seems obvious now. And I think that's the reason why Kovalev Stevenson didn't happen. It seems HBO were adamant that it can't happen on any other station other than HBO. And I think, personally, in my view, they were being awkward about it because Al Heyman's involved. I think if Al Heyman wasn't involved, they might have been a bit more lenient. But there's a big beef between Heyman and HBO because he took, think about how many fighters Heyman took away from HBO. Loads of them. Yeah? They're salty about that. They don't like Al Heyman over there. Big up South Star. Where would you say your objective and fair mindset comes from? I just believe that in a boxing ring, boxing is one of the, fighting is, it's like war. It's a platform where all men can be judged by their deeds in the fight, how well they do in the fight. Whereas outside of an actual fight, outside of actual physical conflict, there's a lot more vagaries in terms of how people are judged. But with two people fight and somebody wins the fight, then you can't really argue. So yeah, I just like the purity of boxing in that sense. And on top of that, I want to give everybody a fair shake because boxing is a universal sport. People all around the world like boxing. So I don't just want to cater for people from this country or people from that country or whatever the case may be. I want every boxing fan to be able to come to my channel and say, okay, he's going to give my fighter a fair shake regardless. Yeah? So that's all it is really. All right, somebody here, Joe Slatter says, Carla Howe is just a model. What's the big deal? Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to look up Carla Howe then. She's just a model. I'm not really into models and celebrity chicks and all them kind of things there. I like women that I see on the day-to-day. I'm not really into, I've never been into women on television, I've never been somebody like that, into celebrity women and I don't care for women like that. I like women who I meet or come across in real life. All right, funny question here. Hatman, who has the biggest heart? Malik Scott or Charles Martin? Definitely Malik Scott, I would say. Pill Destroyer says, before I get to Pill Destroyer, Earn Online PA says, thoughts on boxing gossip / Ultratech Sports. I don't know about Ultratech Sports, but I'm a big fan of boxing gossip's work. What fighter am I looking forward to seeing next year? So many fighters. I mean, Shaky Jake 151, black chicks or white chicks, Hatman. Well, I've actually never dated any chick in my life that wasn't black, So, just as many Chinese people have never dated a chick that weren't Oriental, and many white people have only ever dated white chicks. I've only ever dated black chicks in my life. Hello, Hatman, are you good at FIFA? No, I don't play FIFA. Same Hussein says, why do you seem to dislike Don Charles? I don't like dislike Don Charles. I just don't really rate him as a trainer. I don't dislike him. I'm sure he's a very nice man, but I just don't really rate him as a trainer. That's all. Malik Scott seems like a really intelligent guy and would be a great pundit, I think. I agree. Big up the no FIFA playing. Yeah, I don't get into FIFA, man. Is Callum Smith overrated? We'll find out in due course. He needs to fight somebody who can expose whether he's overrated or whether he's the real deal. We'll find out. Liam Reynolds says, Chisora and Charles seem like closet homosexuals. That's deep. That is deep. I think they've got a father-son relationship. Chisora's dad apparently wasn't around or isn't around. So, and from what I hear, from what I understand, he doesn't necessarily have a great relationship with his biological father. So maybe there was a void there that Don Charles filled. Saeem Hussein says, have I heard of Afran Iqbal? I have heard of him. Yeah, I have. I've definitely heard that name. I've probably seen him fight, but I can't think of specific fights off the top of my head right now, but I'm sure I've heard of him. Yeah. Carlton Palmer says, I like boxing gossip, but he can be overly negative sometimes. Okay. Hatman, your thoughts on Molina after the press conference? Is he hungry? Hell yeah, he's hungry. He's definitely hungry. Somebody talking about boxing gossip 60s wallpaper. You know, I don't mind the wallpaper, man, actually. I think it's alright. But I don't know anything about interior decorating, so I'm definitely not the guy to go to when it comes to that kind of thing. And I agree with what Liam Reynolds is saying there. I don't rate Chisora when he can't, or sorry, I don't rate Charles when he can't teach Chisora how to properly punch. Indeed. Cedric says, is he as hungry as Big Baby Miller? I'm not sure anybody's as hungry as Big Baby Miller. Shout out to Big Baby, by the way. He actually commented in one of my videos. I think it was the post-fight video I did for his fight against Fred Cassie, and he was leaving some comments and that. Yeah, so shout out to Big Baby. All right, well, somebody wants to join the block party here. What is it with these homosexual comments, man? Allow it. All right. Do I watch Boxing Asylum or Next Big Pod? I don't. Hatman, would you be a big or small heavyweight? Today I'd be a fairly small. Not the smallest heavyweight, but fairly small. Like, in my prime, you know, I was probably like, I want to say 226, 227 pounds in shape. So, pretty small by today's standards. Shaky Jake says, what's your favorite weight division to watch? Right now, cruiserweight. Yeah. I do like the cruiserweights. What's all these idiots with these weird comments? Yeah, I don't know, man. People leaving weird gay comments. I don't know what would compel somebody to go online and start trolling people with gay comments. Weird stuff, but you know, whatever gets their rocks off, man. Oh gosh. Crazy. It's called dementia. Yeah. What do I think of Nonito's performance? Nonito's fighting tomorrow, right? So you're asking me how I think he's gonna perform? Does Adam Smith from Sky have people hostage in his shed? Is that a rhetorical question? I think we all know that he does. Usyk versus Hay. Very good fight. I would lean towards Hay, but I was very impressed with Usyk against Glavatsky. I can say that. Very impressed. Because I rate Glavatsky highly. Alright, Cambrel82 says, yo, Hatman, can you please give me your quick prediction for Kovalev versus Ward? Forgive me if you have already, as I tuned in late. Bless. I think Kovalev is going to win. I don't know how he's going to win, whether it's going to be knockout or points, but I think he's going to win. Yeah, Tepper lost to Christian Hammer. Crazy indeed. He don't seem the same without the juice. Adam F. Patrick says, I think Bellew got lucky. Fought for the vacant WBC against Makabu, who I didn't think much of. Harsh. Yeah, maybe a bit harsh. I don't think Bellew was necessarily lucky, but I just think there's a lot of talent at cruiserweight, and he hasn't fought the best guys yet. And when he does, I don't expect him to win. But Makabu was a decent fighter. Nothing special, but decent. Smithy all the way says, I think Ward UD just got a feeling. Could be. I mean, could be. Ward, he don't know how to lose. He's been winning for how many years now? 20 odd years since he lost the fight or something crazy like that. He don't know how to lose. And he's seen so many different styles, both in the ring and in the gym. The stuff that Ward does is so technical and it's so precise that mere mortals like us can't really understand to the full extent exactly what he's doing and exactly what he's thinking from a tactical point of view, because his level of skill is so high. He can look at somebody in the ring and say, I can exploit this, and this. He'll see all kinds of things that we don't see. You know, we can see a certain amount, but because we're not in his head and we don't know the things that he can do, you know, you just never know, man. You never know. Ward is extremely skillful, very smart. He's a born winner. And if he won the fight, obviously I wouldn't be shocked. But he hasn't looked particularly impressive lately. I agree with the people that said he doesn't look like the same RJ Ward that won the Super 6. And he's moving up in weight against a monster puncher. So it's a very difficult task for him. But if he pulls it off, you know, you got to take your hat off to Andre Ward. You really will have to. Smithy. See, what is it saying on screen here? Why is it saying that Smithy Hallway is blocked by channel blacklist? What the hell does that mean? I hope Smithy ain't blocked. It's like YouTube's trying to block people. What the hell? I'm just in the block thing here. YouTube acting weird, man. I don't know. This chat room is saying it's trying to block people that I haven't even blocked. Okay, you're there. Thank God. Yeah. I didn't block you, but for some reason on my screen looking at the chat, it was saying that you were blocked. Bradley versus Porter, who wins? I think right now Porter wins. Surely Bradley can't go on for much longer. His career's been too long and too tough. So I would go with Sean Porter in that one. Wood versus GGG at super middleweight. I would definitely pick Andre Wood. Definitely. Hatman, who will do better against Wilder, Chisora or Whyte? Good question, because styles really do make fights. I would say Whyte because he's fresher, but maybe back in the days when Chisora was a bit better than he is now, maybe Chisora, from, you know, just based on styles. How much do you think a boxer who has killed someone in the ring plays on their mind? Depends on the boxer. Some boxers are not bothered. Other boxers, it plays on their mind a lot. He obviously hasn't seemed to bother Kovalev much. He's a mean cat. So, is Rigo beatable, and by who? Everybody's beatable. By who? I don't know who's in the Rigo's division right now, super bantamweight. It's not really the most deep division at the moment. He glossed me. He glossed me. Ah, Chisora. Kid Galahad versus Scott Quigg. Very, very good fight. I don't know what Galahad's going to be like after the layoff, but if it was the Galahad from before the layoff, I would actually favor him over Scott Quigg. Yeah. Galahad was looking quite impressive to me. Is Mike Perez still in Ireland eating them at McDonald's? Probably. You know, I said this video is probably still up on my old channel. But when Mike Perez won Prize Fighter, I said there and then, this guy is going to go away and disappear and come back like 20, 30 pounds heavier. You can't give a Cuban heavyweight 30 grand in one night like that for some easy work and expect him to stay in shape and come back and compete at a high level again. You can't expect that. Cuban heavyweights have got a long history and track record of going crazy as soon as they touch down in the United States or Europe. Because in Cuba, they're eating like small portions of beans and rice every day when they're in those boxing academies and whatnot. And they, most of them live in poverty, those guys. They're very poor. They don't have access to a lot of food. So when they finally reach the West and there's just food everywhere, they go crazy because they're heavyweights. They don't have to make weight. It's not like the smaller guys, Rigondeaux and Lara and those guys. They have to make weight. The heavyweights don't have to make weight, so they go crazy. Like Odlin Solis and most Cuban heavyweights. Like back in the days when there was the big Cuban Jorge Luis Gonzalez, who fought Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis in the amateurs. And he had a lot of talent, but he was arrogant. He trained himself. Yeah, actually trained himself. Didn't want nobody to train him. And yeah, his career didn't turn out too well. Ended up getting knocked out by Riddick Bowe, knocked out by Tim Witherspoon and a bunch of other people. And he was a very, very good amateur. I think he even beat Teofilo Stevenson in the amateurs. Jorge Luis Gonzalez. Yeah. Man, have you ever been in a street fight, and if so, what happened? I've been in loads of street fights, and loads of stuff happened. Prime George Foreman versus AJ. Too early to say. Obviously, the most common answer people are going to give is Foreman, because we know what Foreman can do, but we don't yet know what AJ is really capable of. So I want to reserve judgment until we've seen AJ up there against the best of the best and find out how good he is, and then I'll be able to talk about AJ versus all these greats from the past and give my opinions on that. Because George Foreman, as good as he was, he had a hell of a lot of flaws. So Foreman was far from invincible. I mean, Jimmy Young beat George Foreman. Hatman, do you think Mayweather would be undefeated without cherry picking? I think if he'd fought everybody that was around during his time, he probably wouldn't be undefeated. I mean, some people say he's not undefeated anyway because of the first fight with Castillo. So boxing is a numbers game. And the more often you fight, the more people you fight, particularly high level fighters, somebody's going to beat you. Even if you are just that good, you're going to have an off night at some point. Somebody's going to catch you with something and you're going to lose a fight. That's why everybody loses in the amateurs. Everybody loses in the amateurs. No matter how good you are. There's almost no fighters at all with no amateur losses, unless they only had like 3 or 4 amateur fights or whatever. But when you're talking about guys that have had dozens or hundreds of fights, everybody loses. Yeah? So the more fights you have, the more chance there is that you're going to lose. Wilder is much better now than when he fought Molina. I think Wilder beats Joshua. I would love to see the fight, man. You think Molina will go at least 5 rounds? Maybe. I mean, Molina's hungry. He's been in there with, you know. Yeah, Robinson was 88-0 as a pro. Actually, was he 88-0? He went on a streak of having loads of wins at welterweight, but I can't remember if that was when he was still undefeated. Oh, in the amateurs, okay. Well, there's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, everybody loses in the amateurs. Floyd Mayweather lost in the amateurs. Rigondeaux lost in the amateurs. Lomachenko lost in the amateurs. Triple G lost in the amateurs. Everybody loses in the amateurs. Muhammad Ali lost. Roy Jones Jr. lost. Everybody loses. My thoughts on Willie Pep. Well, Willie Pep was one of the greatest defensive fighters of all time. And in fact, they used to compare Pernell Whitaker to Willie Pep back in the days when Pernell Whitaker first came on the scene. There was a lot of comparisons between him and Willie Pep. I'm not really a massive fan of defensive fighters. Just from an entertainment standpoint, you know, but that is what that is. Yeah, right now it looks like Usyk may be the best of the cruiserweights. He is very good. I do rate him. Roy Jones Jr. versus Ward. I would definitely go with Roy Jones Jr. In his prime, he was just an absolute phenom. I've never seen an athlete like that in the boxing ring ever before. Incredible. I would have definitely picked Roy Jones. Big up T, don't watch. Thank you for your kind words, bro. Respect. Big respect. Big respect to everybody watching. Everybody in the chat room, big up. I can't manage to keep up with every single comment because they're coming so thick and fast, but definitely thank all you guys for tuning in to these live streams, man. Big up everybody. Shaky Jake says, the way Frank Warren pronounces fighters' names is class. Hate Warren, love his mannerisms. Yeah, you know, most people have got redeeming features and qualities, and there are some things about Frank Warren that I find amusing. Yes, T, don't watch. Shout out to T. Big up T. Vlad versus Vitali, definitely Vitali. What do I like to eat? I like all types of different food, man. I'm a foodie. I like food from everywhere. How highly do I rate Pirog? That's a good question. I really don't know what the hell happened to Pirog. Apparently he picked up some type of injury. And, you know, he just retired or whatever it was. And he was supposed to fight Golovkin. So I was thinking maybe he's pulled out and retired with an injury because he don't want to fight Golovkin because he's from Eastern Europe as well. And all them Eastern European guys know from the amateur days about Golovkin. But I did rate Pirog highly. He obviously knocked out Danny Jacobs, and I liked his style. It's a shame that we didn't get to see more of him. So if it was some genuine ailment that he has, it's unfortunate. Can everyone please stop getting shot? You know about oxide and neutrino, yeah? Okay. Hatman, have you noticed Eddie Hearn keeps on saying Hayes should fight Ortiz, not Joshua? I haven't actually noticed that. But, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what Eddie Hearn tries to do now. And tries to use Ortiz as a buffer. So he'll say, yeah, I'll give you the AJ fight if you get through Ortiz. You know? Try to get them to get Ortiz, if you don't beat them, at least to soften them up first before they get the AJ fight. Hatman versus Jarrell Miller. Let's see it. Man, you must not like me very much if you want me to fight Jarrell Miller. Big up Big Baby, man. I don't want no problems with Big Baby. Who would I pick, Ortiz or Hay? Right now, I'd pick Ortiz. But with his age, I know Hay's no spring chicken himself, but he's a lot younger than Ortiz. And I don't care what official age they say Ortiz is, he's not really that age. No way, I don't believe it. David Hay versus Romanian cab driver or taxi driver. Depends if Hay's got a healthy toe. Sven Otkar TBE, innit, Hatman? I mean, Sven Otkar, God, man. Horrible, horrible to watch. Big Blubber Miller. Yeah, you know, Baby Miller is a fat boy. He knows he's a fat boy. And when I called him a fat boy in that video, he commented on the video and was like, yo, fat boys for life. Yeah, I'm a fat boy, and what? He's proud of being a fat boy. In fact, that's why Big Baby Miller is called Big Baby. Because he said that at one of his fights, some girls in the crowd, a bunch of ladies in the crowd just started chanting, Big Baby, because he looks like a big baby. He's all chubby and that, and them weird shorts that he wears look a bit like a nappy. So they started chanting Big Baby, and he liked it, and the name stuck, you know. And that's how it is. He's from Brooklyn, Big Baby Miller. And that's how it is a lot of the time when you're from certain neighborhoods. Anything that's bad about you, or anything that could be perceived as bad, will end up as your nickname. If you got big ears, people will find a way to incorporate that as a nickname. Yeah, any kind of ailment that you have or anything like that will become your name, and it will become your name to the extent where people don't even know your real name. Yeah, Big Baby. Who hits harder, AJ or Klitschko in his prime? I would say Klitschko. Hatman, did you hear Frank Warren's thoughts on the WBA ranking situation? No, I didn't. I don't think I did anyway. What are his thoughts on the WBA ranking situation? I did hear his thoughts on the WBO ranking situation, though. And he seems perfectly happy for David Hay to be ranked as the mandatory challenger for the winner of Parker versus Ruiz, which is absurd. He's never even fought an eliminator in the WBO. How the hell can he be mandatory challenger? As if by magic. Do I think that Naz was the hardest hitter ever in his weight, or someone else, and who? I think he possibly could be. He was a very, very hard punch in featherweight. I can say that. Tremendous punch in featherweight. He very well could be the hardest punch in featherweight of all time. Because his power was crazy. He was effortless, you know, hitting guys with what looked like minimum effort. And they were just sprawled out on the canvas with broken, twisted noses, and it's crazy. Hatman, do you still think Briggs chasing Vlad on the boat was fake? I think yes, there was an element of fakery to it. I'm not sure that Vlad knew how far Briggs was going to go, but to me, there's just no way that Briggs could follow Vladimir around the way he did and Vladimir allow him to do as much as he did without some element of complicity on Vlad's side, especially with all the press conference stuff. It's not hard to keep somebody out of a press conference. You've got like 100 flipping, 6'7" security there, and you can't keep Shannon Briggs out of multiple press conferences? Come on. The only reason he was in there was because they allowed him in. I think that, there was talk about Klitschko fighting Briggs, but in retrospect, Klitschko was probably doing the same thing to Briggs that David Haye has done to Briggs and just use him for publicity. Make him think that he was going to fight him, string him along, all the while just using him for publicity. Because if you notice, Briggs was at all those Klitschko press conferences when Klitschko was fighting these obscure fighters who nobody'd heard of before. Yeah, when he was fighting Alex Leopai and people like that, that's when he was allowed into the Klitschko press conferences. But as soon as he was fighting the likes of Pulev and Fury, they didn't allow him in. So maybe he was just using Briggs as a promotional tool to generate hype around his fights, which were against lesser tier opposition. Dan B says David Haye is scared of Briggs' power. I don't think David Haye's really scared of Briggs, to be honest. I just think, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on in David Haye's brain. It's hard to know. He's such a dishonest and deceptive character. But one thing I can say about David Haye is he is a fighter. He has a fighter's heart. Yeah, as much as I criticize David Haye, when he gets in the ring, he's not scared. He's not trying to get hit, but any opportunity he gets, he's going to try to take your head clean off. You don't care who you are. He will go for you. He will go for that chin if you expose it. You don't care who you are. Man, have you ever glassed someone or been glassed? I've never glassed nobody. I've never been glassed. I've nearly been glassed. I've had bottles thrown at me and glasses thrown at me, but they never actually hit me. And I've seen people glassed as well, properly glassed, with the pint glass shoved in their face. It was ugly. Super Jack says Klitschko exposed by Fury and Fury will do the same to AJ the Robot. Well, we'll find out in due course. I personally don't think that Fury will have as easy a time against the likes of AJ, Parker and Wilder as he had against Klitschko. I just don't think those young, aggressive, testosterone-filled guys are going to allow themselves to be peppered from the outside and not try and take the bull by the horns and turn it into a brawl. I think they will do that. I think they've got a lot more, as I say, testosterone and youthful energy than Klitschko, who's always been a naturally cautious guy. So I don't see them going out like Klitschko and just standing around like zombies getting jabbed to death for 12. I don't see it. I think they'll go for it and they'll try and draw Fury into a brawl. And when that happens, Fury could get clocked himself. And he's been down before, by people who don't hit like Joseph Parker and AJ and Wilder and whatnot. So I see Fury against any three of those guys as a lot more interesting than the first Klitschko Fury fight. Who is the most feather-fisted fighter you've ever seen? Ruben Caddick. Big up Ruben. Big up Ruben. Rudin Cabot. Rudin Cabot. Rudin Cabbage. The most feather-fisted fighter I've ever seen. Barry Jones is pretty feather-fisted. Yeah, big up Barry Jones, by the way. I like his work on Box Nation, but he was very feather-fisted. Puli Malalaji, obviously, and there have been many others. Did you work in Rainforest on Thursday night back in the days, cookies and cream? No, I didn't work in Rainforest, but I have been to Rainforest. The last time I went there was for an after carnival party, and there was so much girls in there. Oh my gosh. Rainforest Cafe. Leicester Square. Yeah, back in the days, man. Fury, let me see here. Sick of all the casual saying AJ is invincible. Nobody's invincible. Dave Caldwell is a good commentator. I agree. They were uni gal back in the days. Yeah. Anybody who knows about uni, the uni campuses, you know, those are the places to go. Yeah. John Smith says, Hatman, you always say how much of a bad person David Hay is, but to be fair, he did donate 100,000 to Nick Blackwell. Well, I don't think I've ever said David Hay is a bad person. I'm just talking about him in the arena of boxing, in terms of the way he treats the fans, in terms of how dishonest he is, so on and so forth, and how hypocritical he is. In terms of his day-to-day life, I don't know if David Hayes is a bad person because I don't know him like that. I don't know him in his day-to-day life. And I did say that giving Nick Blackwell 100 grand or whatever it was a great gesture and a great thing to do. I did mention that in the video when I talked about it. I gave him credit for that. Definitely. How many other people did that in boxing? Reached out and gave Nick Blackwell 100 grand. How many of those promoters who probably got more money than David Hay, how many of them reached out and gave him any money? Yeah, remember when James Toney offered out Ben and Eubank in one night? Yeah, that show where James Toney offered out Ben and Eubank was called The Best of Enemies, and it was hosted by Jonathan Ross on ITV, I believe it was. And there was a part in that show where they showed a picture of Nigel Benn posing in Playgirl magazine. Crazy. Nigel Benn used to do softcore, erotic magazine shoots. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. All right. George says, why do internet fans rate Parker so much more highly than AJ when they fought similar class or position? Some people have their favorites. I do like Parker though. I like his hand speed. Same Hussein says, was Ben gay? Not to my knowledge, not to my knowledge. Is David Hay still vegan, and what do I think of veganism in boxing? I think whatever works best for you works best for you. If veganism works for certain fighters, then good luck to them. Me personally, I could never be vegan. I would at least have to eat fish. I could probably give up chicken and, lamb and beef and stuff like that and only eat fish. But in terms of going completely vegan, I couldn't do it. Super Jack says, when AJ loses, all you man will say he weren't that good anyway. I've said this long time. I expect AJ to lose. I expect everybody to lose. How many heavyweights don't lose? How many fighters in general don't lose? Most of the greatest fighters of all time have lost fights. So, you know, I don't see it as the end of the world if these guys are losing fights. They're supposed to lose. Surely, if the division is as competitive as I think it is, or as competitive as I think it's going to be, then surely you have to expect all of these guys to pick up losses along the way. Dunkmaster Pro 5000 says, would you live on saltfish and dumplings? No. I like saltfish and dumpling, but you know, I'd need fresh fish, not only saltfish. Who will AJ most likely lose to, in your opinion? It's really too early to say. And when I say it's too early to say, I'm not trying to sit on the fence or cop out or whatever. But just looking at the history of heavyweight boxing, when these hot prospects lose, it's usually to somebody that you don't expect them to lose to. Look at Vladimir Klitschko. How many people expected him to lose to Ross Purity? How many people expected him to lose to Corey Sanders? You know? Lennox Lewis. How many people thought he would lose to Oliver McCall? So the losses that these fighters take tend to come a lot of the time to people that you wouldn't expect them to lose to. Even, and this is not such a profound example, but even when Holyfield fought Michael Moorer, not many people thought Holyfield would lose to Michael Moorer. Yeah, he was coming off a revenge win over Riddick Bowe. People didn't really expect him to lose that Moorer fight, but he lost it. Need some ackee with that saltfish, yeah. Curry Goat smashes it every time. Do my impression of the Eubanks. Maybe. I'll need to try to get it right in my head first before I do it again. Thibaut Marciano, please change your surname back to your French surname. Do I think the glass incident was staged? Do you think it was staged? Let me ask you that. How about, do you think James DeGale will beat Badou Jack as easy as a lot of people are saying? Based on his past few performances, I would say no. Hatman, Sticky Fingers boxing on MTV back in the days. Yeah, I remember that. He lost to that white guy. And 50 Cent dissed him about it. Mr. Megabuck Song says, how far do you think Junior can go in his career? Do you think he has a chance of, let me try to scroll up quickly and read that. Do you think he has a chance of winning a version of a world title? I would say yes, he has a chance of winning a version of a world title at the very least. You know what, Tebow? I think that you should ask that other guy, that the guy who shoots his videos in 240p, and yeah, I think you should go ask that guy to do a live stream and answer that question. Hatman, do you really think David Price would be a better opponent than Eric Molina? I think he's more dangerous. That's what I will say. More dangerous because have a look at the interview that Anthony Joshua did with Kugan Cassius on IFL Today. And when Kugan Cassius, raises the topic of David Price, look at Anthony Joshua's demeanor and tell me if you think Joshua looks comfortable talking about David Price. I don't think he looked comfortable at all. I think he got quite tetchy when they raised the subject of David Price, and I did not at all buy his explanation for not fighting Price. I think he remembers what happened in that sparring session, and it might be a little bit of a ghost in his memory. Really and truly, AJ should beat David Price. You know, I think he's a better fighter than David Price, but given what's happened in the past, that could be a factor if they do fight. That's all I'll say. Indeed, 791 Mike. AJ started protesting too much about not caring. He did. To me, he seemed like edgy when Coogan mentioned Price. He got all on edge, and yeah. Coogie Bear asking the difficult questions. Big up Coogie Bear. See, some people criticize Coogan for being too close to Eddie Hearn and not asking the difficult questions. But I've never got that from Coogan Cassius. I've always felt that he does ask the difficult questions of Eddie Hearn, but he just does it with a lot of banter around it. But he puts plenty of difficult questions to Hearn and always has. Yeah, Coogie and Hearn do have a good relationship, but he still comes with the difficult questions. And that's the good thing about Eddie Hearn. You know, I know a lot of people criticize Eddie Hearn, and there's a danger of me sounding like a Hearn fanboy, but Hearn makes himself accessible to the public in a way that I've never seen a boxing promoter make themselves accessible before. People can reach out and communicate directly with Eddie Hearn. You know, Frank Warren never allowed people to do that. Even now, he don't allow people to do that, just random people. Eddie Hearn lets people reach out to him, answers people's questions on Twitter and whatnot. You know, he makes himself accessible. So I like that about Eddie Hearn. Obviously, it's part of his business strategy because he understands the zeitgeist of today. He understands the mentality of the young consumer in this modern age, whereas old timers like Frank Warren don't really get it. So obviously Eddie Hearn's doing that because he's trying to sell a product, but still, that is a good thing about him. He's accessible. People can ask him difficult questions, so on and so forth. He makes himself available for that. Dan B says, respect to Coogan, he does his job well, but doesn't actually know his boxing. Well, he knows his current boxing in terms of, he knows the fighters, he knows who's fighting who and what fights happening where and stuff like that. But in terms of knowing the mechanics of what goes on in the ring, I don't know how well he knows it. I mean, it helps if you do have some boxing experience. I don't know. I mean, Shaky Jake says, how do you make money off YouTube? I don't get how it works. You make advertising revenue off YouTube. YouTube pay you for, they pay you a percentage of money, and the more views you get, the more money you get. Basically. It's not really about subscribers. A lot of people get it twisted. They see somebody with loads of subscribers and automatically assume that person is making more than this other person over here with far less subscribers. It don't work like that. It's about views, not subscriptions. Yeah, I mean, Coogan, IFL are making plenty of money. I can tell you that. They're making a lot of money from YouTube, but they're also making a lot of money, and I suspect they're making even more money from their sponsorships. Excuse me. Life is a grind. Shout out to Life is a Grind. Hatman, do you get the impression that Chisora is just in it for the money now? Yeah, I do, actually. Yeah, I do get that impression. Mr. Megabucks. Yes, James Tony grew up in a bakery. He loves his pastries. They're ripping the arse out of it though, putting extra William Hill adverts before every vid. Yeah, they are, but you know, that's their living. They make 100% of their income from IFL, so they're gonna come with a lot of adverts. And indeed, it's paying for Cougar's expensive holidays in Mauritius and all them kind of places. And I'm sure we'd all love to go Mauritius. So, you know, he's doing his thing. Did you know James Toney is like 5'9"? Yes, yes, I did. He's not a tall guy. Hatman, do you want to see Mayweather come back for one more? Not really, no. Shaky Jake says, still don't get why Chizzy didn't take the AJ fight before getting beat by Pulev. Well, I think that Chisora thought he was going to get cleaned out by AJ. So even though he was being offered a lot more money to fight AJ than Pulev, I think he felt that he had a much better chance of beating Pulev. And even if he didn't beat Pulev, he probably felt like it would be a close enough fight that he'd still have his reputation somewhat intact. But if he got cleaned out by AJ in a couple of rounds, his career as any type of commodity in boxing would have probably come to an end. I think that's what he was thinking. Mr. Mets 85, I'm watching Ghost Dog Way of the Samurai as well as listening. I do quite like that movie. With the lazy eye guy, what's his name? He played Idi Amin in Last King of Scotland. Forrest Whitaker, yeah. Who, in my opinion, was the best combination of boxer puncher? Maybe Sugar Ray Leonard. He was one of them. Because Leonard could fight with you. You know, Leonard didn't just box. He could fight. You know, he could take it to you and get down and dirty in the trenches if he had to. So Leonard's got to be up there. He could really fight in the pocket if he had to with you. He did it against Tommy Hearns. And Tommy Hearns was a tremendous puncher. Mad Eye Moody. Lennox Lewis. Lewis is a good boxer puncher. Lewis is a good all-round fighter. Yeah. Good all-round fighter. Very strong. Tebow says, Eddie Hearn is maybe the greatest promoter England ever had. I can't think of anyone better. Do you agree? Well, controversially, I actually do agree. I've been saying this for a while. I think Eddie Hearn is the best British boxing promoter that I've seen in my lifetime. Yeah. And I'm not talking about in terms of the amount of quality fights he's put on necessarily, because he doesn't have the longevity that Frank Warren has had so far. You know, Frank Warren's been in the game for a hell of a long time. But in the short space of time that Eddie Hearn has been in the game, he's managed to revive British boxing. He's managed to promote the sport and turn a lot of people onto it. So in such a short space of time, he's done a fantastic job of popularizing the sport of boxing, repopularizing it in the UK. So I got to take my hat off to Eddie Hearn in that sense. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he don't do things that are a bit dubious and whatnot. But overall, I think he's done a lot more good than bad, Eddie Hearn. So I rate him very highly. And in terms of being a salesman, and I know a lot of people don't like salesmen, but in terms of being a salesman, I don't think I've ever seen a salesman as good as Eddie Hearn in British boxing. In terms of promoters anyway. There's fighters who have been good salesmen, but in terms of promoters, Eddie Hearn's a fantastic salesman. Hatman, I feel like you should add more video clips to my videos instead of still pictures. Yeah, but I only want to add video clips which I own. I don't want to start adding video clips which are owned by other people, because that's when copyright infringement comes in and all that type of stuff. So I will try and ascertain as much video footage as I can. I have my minions out there, a couple of minions who from time to time I can get them to attend events which I'm unable, because of the geographical situation, I'm unable to attend. But yeah, shout out to Meme Machine. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Hatman, no wonder you're short-sighted playing all these video games. Yes, not good for the eyes. Not good for the eyes. Hatman, who? Okay, before I get onto that one, Intellect 123 says Eddie Hearn over Don King all day. Yeah, Eddie Hearn, I definitely like him a lot better than Don King, because Don King is just a vile, cretinous individual. But Don King did put on a hell of a lot of good fights. That's what I will say. So he ripped off so many fighters, treated people so badly. But in terms of the shows he put on, don't get it confused. Don King put on some of the best heavyweight shows I've ever seen. The best shows, never mind just heavyweight shows. But I was saying heavyweight because I was thinking of one show he put on particularly, which was the Tyson Holyfield show, the first fight. On that show, he had Tyson Holyfield, and on the undercard he had Franz Botha versus Michael Moorer. He also had Henry Akinwande versus a guy called Alexander Zolkin, and a bunch of other fights. It was just a great card, stacked card. He had some other fighters on there who weren't heavyweights, so I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but it was a great show, great event. All the fights were entertaining. Don King put on loads of good shows. But he was a scumbag. A serious scumbag. Hatman, do you think Hearn is on the Charlie at times like Kala? I couldn't possibly comment publicly about that. I couldn't possibly comment for fear of a lawsuit. So Don King cooning it around Donald Trump these days. Well, Don King is a psychopath, so you know. Who is a bigger piece of shit, Don King or Frank Warren? Definitely Don King. Even though Frank Warren was Don King's right-hand man, and he inevitably would have picked up certain things from Don King and learned a lot from him. I'm sure Frank Warren himself wouldn't deny that he learned a lot from Don King. And they certainly come from the same generation of promoters, where exploiting fighters in that generation was just so rampant, and they justified it to themselves somehow. So yeah, Don King killed 2 men. Hatman, who had the best jab, heavyweight jab, Lewis, Liston or Holmes? I would say Holmes. Hatman, what is your views on Donald Trump? I think Donald Trump is an actor. Literally an actor. And I think politics is theater for public consumption. That's what I think of politics. I've got no faith in politics. I think it's a joke. I think that the political power structure is superseded by the economic power structure. That's what I think. Politicians are just there to tell you what you want to hear and implement virtually none of it when they get into office. The US is a dictatorship. I think in some way most countries are a dictatorship. when you really think about it. Because if you've got a choice between this politician and that politician, this party and that party, once they get into office, whoever gets into office, they pretty much do whatever the hell they want. The people can very rarely stop governments doing what they want. I mean, look at Brexit at the moment. The people voted to leave Brexit, and look what's happened in the High Court in the past couple of days. Yeah? So that it is what it is, man. I think what we call democracy is just dictatorship light. You know, at the end of the day, those in positions of economic power ultimately get their way. And us, the majority, the little people, get rolled over more often than not. So in a roundabout way, most systems which we call democratic are really not that democratic. If you want a true democracy, you have to have direct democracy. I believe they have that in Switzerland, where they vote on specific policies rather than just voting for people. Because voting for a person and then the person gets in and does what they want, that's not really very democratic, is it? But voting for specific policies, that's far more democratic, direct democracy. Where if they're going to bring in a big policy like, okay, this is our social housing proposal. Are you for it or against it? And we all have a vote. Yeah? That's far more interactive and far more democratic and far more fair than just having these people come in, oh, we promise you this, this, and this, and they get in and they don't do any of it. Yeah? That's crazy. What is my PSN ID, Hatman? Do I have COD Modern Warfare 2 Remastered? There isn't a COD Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. There's a COD 4 Remastered. And my my PSN ID is stinkmina_x_. T the Truth is talking a lot of deep stuff, and yeah, the US was set up as a state where they weren't even going to have a standing army. That's why they gave everybody weapons, or allowed everybody to have weapons, because the idea was to not have a standing army. And there are several countries in the world, look this up for those who doubt it, there are several countries in the world today who don't have a standing army. I mean, if you look at America, and I've heard a military veteran talk about this, he said that even today America don't need a military. They could just have a Coast Guard, because there are so many guns in America. There is no way that any invading force could come from a different country with 300 million citizens and millions of guns and take over America. Absolutely impossible. The American citizens are armed to the teeth. And they've got police in there, and they've got, you know, the various different security services. The military in America, there's a strong argument that they don't actually even need it, because you're not going to be able to invade that country. It's too technologically advanced, too many guns, you know, and you could still have an air force and all that, but put it in under the control of the Coast Guard, and have the Coast Guard have all the planes and missiles and all that type of stuff. Again, just to safeguard against anybody invading. But really and truly, nobody would be crazy enough to invade the United States. You know, not with a ground invasion anyway. Hatman, don't forget to check out Teslenko. Yup. I will try to keep that in mind. The best opponent for Ortiz on December 10th, man. You guys are better off suggesting opponents to me, because I can't really think off the top of my head. I mean, if we're talking about any type of opponent, I don't know, Jarrell Miller against Ortiz. Indeed. 791 Mike, indeed. Impossible. You could not invade the United States. That's not unless you just want to die, you know. Ortiz versus Price. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't mind it. Or Allen. I hope Allen is in a good place because, you know, he doesn't seem to be in a great place at the moment. I hope he's in a good place. If he is, then he can be involved in certain fights. And we'll see how tough that chin really is. It's held up well so far, but shout out to Matt Jones. Yes, thank you for that comment there, sir. The older you get, the more cynical you become. When you're young, you're idealistic and you have hopes and dreams and all that kind of stuff. But when you reach a certain age and you've seen certain cycles, like the political cycle, go around a few times, you realize it's all some joke. You know. T the Truth says Luis Ortiz is the most avoided heavyweight out there. Definitely one of them, for sure. 791 Mike says, anyone think Price can be taught to move and defend enough to land his bombs against the top heavyweights? He can be taught a lot of things, but I think David Price's reflexes are not the best and they're never going to be particularly good. And that will always catch up to him. Against fast opponents, particularly David Price is going to have problems. Guys with fast reflexes who can punch. Somebody like a David Haye, I think, would be very, very dangerous for David Price to fight. Man, how he pulled off Rumble in the Jungle, Thriller in Manila, amazing. He dealt dictators. Mobutu. Well, you know, I don't really want to jump in there and say nothing about the rulers of those countries like that, because there's, you know, different views and whatnot. But what I will say is that Don King comes from the streets, the ghettos in Cleveland, and to survive what he survived, coming from his gangster background, he's pretty fearless. So dealing with dictators or whoever he was, you know, may or may not have been dealing with, won't have really fazed him because he was living on the edge anyway. Shout out to Super Jack, thank you. Bernard Hopkins' final fight, yeah, against Joe Smith Jr. We'll see how it goes. I think Hopkins, if he's even got 40% left in the tank, I think he beats Joe Smith Jr. on points. Big up Dan B. Yeah, definitely be there for the Pacquiao fight and catch that one. What are the best boxing gyms in London? Says Joseph Abbey. I guess it depends on the individual, really. I could tell you the best gyms in terms of the success they have. It depends how you want to gauge it. Obviously, Repton is an extremely successful gym and one of the most famous gyms, but it won't necessarily suit everybody. There's Repton, Fitzroy Lodge, All Stars, Miguel's. I mean, so many gyms. Finchley, ABC, Edmonton Eagles. Loads of gyms, loads of good gyms, but it all depends on how you get along with the trainers there, whether you like the atmosphere and all that kind of thing, you know. All depends. IQ Boxing Club, EJ Boxing Live. Never heard of IQ Boxing Club, you know. Is because I saw some footage of you, EJ, doing the pads. Is that where you were, or was that at All Stars? Neasden Boxing Club. Weird question. Hatman, what champions would you beat right now? I mean, would you beat someone from from flyweight? I mean, I hope so. If I trained, you know, I had like an 8-week camp, I hope I could beat a world champion from flyweight as big as I am. Repton is a good gym, just packed. Yeah, it's packed because it's so successful. We've had so many top fighters come out of Repton that, you know, it's very popular. Chisora played down Whyte's kickboxing background. Do you think a martial arts background, especially a ring sport like kickboxing, brings an advantage, or is too dissimilar to Queensby rules? Well, I think that any experience in a combat sport is going to help you to a certain extent when transitioning over to boxing. From a psychological point of view, if nothing else, being used to being in there with somebody who's trying to destroy you, having that kind of experience helps. And obviously from a fitness point of view, it also helps, because you have to be in great shape to compete in kickboxing at any type of decent level, same as boxing. So it helps you to a certain extent, but obviously you can't take the top kickboxer in the world and put him in a boxing ring under boxing rules with the best boxer in the world and hope the kickboxer's going to win, because he won't, and vice versa as well. Tebow says, Hatmans, what's your favorite video from me? My favorite video from you was the video where you were sparring with your friend in the back garden. Yeah. I don't know why you removed that from your channel. That was my favorite video of you. Would you watch bare knuckle boxing if it was polished up like UFC? Well, they do have bare knuckle boxing. BKB, they have some type of bare knuckle league where Gabe Rosado was in it. Yeah, they have it, and it was polished up. I guess it depends on the quality of the fighters, really. Yeah, with the dog. Height, weight, and reach in my prime. 6'2", weight probably 226, 227. Reach, I think my reach is like 80, something like that. 78. I ain't measured it for a long time, but it's around that. It's quite long anyway for my height, I can tell you that. I think maybe around 80. Could I beat Charlie Zelenoff? Well, you know, Zelenoff is a serious guy. So I wouldn't want to make any bold statements about the Z-Train, the cyborg Zelenoff, and have the word get back to him, because he might come for me. So Dunkmaster Pro, I always knew Hatman was really Ika Beabuchi. I'm glad that I'm not Ika Beabuchi. Oh my gosh. Hearns had an 80-inch reach. I thought he had a 78-inch reach, but you know, the box rec stats are not always accurate. But I thought he was 78, which is still very long for a guy that's 6'1". How would Pac-Man fare against GGG at 154? I think not very well. Yeah. What would play a big factor in Dillian versus Dereck? Heart maturity or style? All three could play a big factor. As I said at the top of the stream, um, for me, Derek's best chance of winning is to keep provoking Dillian and keep goading him and keep getting him to explode the way that he has been. If he can do that, he can get Dillian to expend a lot of unnecessary energy, and hopefully from Chisora's perspective, Dillian will carry that over into the fight and come out very fast and angry and try and hurt Dereck and make mistakes, blow himself out, and maybe Dereck will be able to take over in the second half of the fight, outwork him. So I think that, yeah, Dereck, he's the older guy. He's been there, seen it and done it. He's been the young, cocky guy in Dillian's position before. So he understands Dillian's mentality at this stage. So, yeah, I think he needs to keep on provoking Dillian. From Dillian's point of view, his trainer, Mark Tibbs, has to get hold of him and say, look, don't allow emotions to get involved like this. Stay calm. We've got a job to do. Keep your mind on the game plan. Keep your mind on what you're going to do in there from a technical point of view. Don't let Chisora goad you into all this kind of stuff. But one thing I can say about Dillian Whyte, similar to Tony Bellew, is that because they're such naturally confrontational people, they can have a big bust up with somebody, a massive big fight, a confrontation, and 5 minutes later, they're back to normal. They're not thinking about, you know, that confrontation for the rest of the day or for the next couple days. It's out of their mind that quick. And they're thinking about something else instead. Because they're so used to confrontation that it's not even a big deal for them. Yeah, I snapped then and threw a glass at him and had to be restrained by 8 guys, but, you know, that's half an hour ago. I don't care about that now. So Dereck is going to have to do a lot, I think, to keep on provoking Dillian all the way in the build-up to the fight, in the hope that it carries over into the fight itself. Yeah, he definitely needs to do something at the weigh-in. Yeah. Do I think Jimmy Tibbs is a good trainer? Yeah, I think he is. Hatman, was you there at the Fulham riots? No, I was not. Why is Chisora not getting a box office cut for this fight? Where is the incentive to start shit if this is the case? Chisora is not getting a cut because he's not a matchroom fighter. That's my best guess. You know, he's not a matchroom fighter, so if you ain't matchroom, I guess you ain't gonna get a cut of the pay-per-view. Thank you, Cameo 111. Big up and thank you for watching. Much appreciated. Yeah, he keeps on about this blowy, you know, getting Dillian Whyte to blow him. It's all very suspect. Yeah. What age did I start boxing? I was probably like 12, 13, something like that. Yeah, Chisora, yeah. It's still good for Chisora to have so many people watch the fight, yeah. For the exposure. Ronnie Davis versus Freddie Roach, who wins? I would actually say Freddie Roach. Yeah. Roach is pretty vicious. Yeah, he's pretty vicious, man. And Roach was a fairly decent level professional. Nothing special, but he was a fairly decent level, relatively speaking. Did I get revenge on the guys who killed my dog? No, no, I didn't get revenge on them. Shout out to T Zarif. Big up. And a couple years after my dog was killed, we moved to England anyway. So it was what it was, man. Sometimes you just have to take those losses on the chin. Yeah. Bullies killed Mike's favorite pigeon. They did indeed, yeah. But Mike Tyson beat the crap out of that guy who tore the head off his pigeon. He had some people around, and it was only one bully. And I'm no Mike Tyson. So I tried to have a go, but you know, I got slapped around, man. They were too big. What happened to Chisora's dog? Chisora's dog got killed by an Alsatian or a pair of Alsatians. Next door, I think it was. Yeah. I don't know how the Alsatians got into his garden or his dog got into the Alsatian's garden or what happened. But his dog, his little tiny dog, I don't know what kind of breed it was, but it's like the size of a Chihuahua. It got killed by some Alsatians. All right, what are we in this stream now? 3 hours in. So I think I'm going to call this stream a day. Shout out to everyone who tuned in to watch. Big up everybody. Much appreciated. And I might even do another stream tomorrow night while I'm waiting for the fights to take place in the United States. I might even do that. We'll have something else to discuss tomorrow. If I do a stream tomorrow, obviously we'll be talking about Pacquiao and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, shout out to everybody for tuning in. And, yeah, big up everybody. All right, I'm out.